Level 1. The gambler. You're sitting alone in a small apartment. The furniture is cheap and the room feels almost empty. A year ago, you managed millions of dollars. Today, you're wondering how you'll pay next month's rent. The phone won't stop ringing. Lawyers, former investors, and people demanding answers. You already know what they're going to say. None of the answers will change anything. And the strangest part? The market didn't destroy you. A recession didn't destroy you either. One person did. But to understand how it happened, you need to go back to the beginning. You're 22 years old, and you think investing is the fastest path to freedom? Everywhere you look, people seem rich. Everyone claims they know the secret. Luxury cars, profit screenshots everywhere. Nobody talks about losing money. Nobody talks about failure. So neither do you. You only focus on the winners. You buy assets you don't understand. And convince yourself you'll figure it out later. The first trade makes money. The second trade loses money. The third trade wipes out everything you earned. And suddenly you're chasing losses instead of profits. You tell yourself the next trade will fix everything. You just need one good opportunity. Instead of becoming more careful, you start taking bigger risks. Soon your savings aren't enough. So you start using credit cards. Then one credit card becomes two. And two become three. You stop investing and start gambling with better vocabulary. Every loss feels temporary. Every win feels like proof you're right. You spend more time watching markets and less time building your future. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. The account keeps shrinking. The frustration keeps growing. One night, you open your portfolio and stare at the screen in silence. Almost everything is gone. And for the first time, you stop blaming the market. Level 2. The student. The market wasn't taking your money. You were giving it away. Not because you were unlucky, because you didn't know what you were doing. For the first time, you stop looking for shortcuts and start looking for answers. And that's where everything finally starts to change. Not your portfolio, you. The losses don't stop immediately. In fact, they get worse before they get better. Part of you still wants the shortcut. The other part is finally learning patience. You spend nights watching interviews instead of hype videos, and slowly your perspective begins to change. You discover Warren Buffett, then Charlie Munger. They talk about discipline, not excitement. They talk about risk, not predictions. At first, it feels disappointing. You wanted secrets. Instead, they keep repeating the same things. Discipline, patience, consistency. The answers seem almost too simple. Surely it can't be that easy. But then you notice something. The people getting rich slowly all follow similar rules. The people getting rich quickly keep disappearing. The patient ones keep showing up year after year. One evening, you open your old trading history and start scrolling through years of mistakes, hundreds of trades, thousands of dollars lost. Suddenly, something becomes painfully clear. Most of those losses came from you, your impatience, your greed, your fear. You stop looking for the perfect investment and start looking for a repeatable process. For the first time, you create rules and promise yourself to actually follow them. No more emotional trades, no more chasing hype. You begin reading company reports, and suddenly, investing becomes much less exciting. But strangely enough, that's exactly what makes it work. Months pass, then an entire year. Your portfolio is growing again. Slowly, quietly. Nobody online is talking about gains like these because they're boring, but boring starts beating exciting. Again and again. You stop checking prices every hour. Then, every day, your life slowly expands beyond the market. And that's a good sign. For years, investing controlled your emotions. Now it barely controls your attention. That's when the first real confidence appears. Not confidence in the market. Confidence in yourself, in your process, and without realizing it, you stop acting like a beginner. Level 3. The professional. Your portfolio keeps growing, And so does your confidence. Not because every investment works, because you finally understand why they fail. You stop trying to predict the future and start preparing for it. For the first time, people begin asking for your advice, and that feels strange. Years ago, you were the one looking for answers. Now you're giving them. Eventually, an opportunity appears. A small position at an investment firm. The salary isn't impressive, but the experience is priceless. Every day, you're surrounded by people who think differently, and that's exactly what you need. You learn more in 1 year there than in several years on your own. The portfolio grows, the career grows. For the first time, money feels predictable, and that changes everything. You move into a better apartment, then buy a better car. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, because you can finally afford it. Life becomes more comfortable, but ambition doesn't disappear, because now you see a bigger game, and you want a seat at that table. Level 4, the empire. The idea starts small. Most dangerous ideas do. What if you started your own firm? What if you stopped building someone else's dream? The thought follows you everywhere. At work, at home, even at night. Eventually, you stop imagining and start planning. Then one morning, you do something terrifying. You quit. For the first time in years, your future becomes uncertain again. The first office is tiny, almost embarrassingly small. The first client arrives, then another, and another. One client becomes 10. 10 become 50. Soon you're too busy to do everything yourself. So you hire your first employee, then a second, then a third. The tiny office disappears. A bigger one takes its place. One afternoon, you stop and look around. The company feels alive. The apartment becomes a house. The old car becomes a luxury vehicle. The goals that once felt impossible now feel completely normal. One Saturday morning, you wake up early. Before everyone else, the house is quiet. The neighborhood is peaceful. For a moment, you just stand there, looking at everything you built. And for the first time, you think, I actually did it. A few hours later, someone joins you. A woman who will change your life. At first, she's just part of your future. Then she becomes your future. A few years later, she's your wife. And life feels almost unreal. The business keeps growing, and so does your reputation. People start calling you successful. For the first time, you don't disagree. Around this time, someone from your past returns. An old school friend. You haven't seen him in years, but the conversation feels effortless. You talk about school, old memories, old dreams, and without realizing it, you begin trusting him again. At first, he only helps occasionally. Small tasks, small meetings. Then he starts showing up every day. And people seem to like him. Clients trust him. Employees trust him. Most importantly, you trust him. After all, you've known him for years. Long before the money. Long before the company. Long before the success. Eventually, you offer him a bigger role. And he accepts immediately. The partnership feels natural. Almost inevitable. The company keeps growing. And so does his influence. You start giving him more responsibility. Then even more. Eventually, you stop checking everything yourself. Because trust feels more efficient. The company becomes bigger than you imagined. And life becomes easier than you expected. You travel more. Work less. The business seems to run perfectly. Even when you're not there. And that's exactly when the danger begins. Because success makes people comfortable. Level 5. The cracks. The first warning sign looks insignificant. Almost forgettable. A transaction you don't remember approving. A signature you don't recognize. You ask your partner about it. He has an answer immediately. The explanation sounds reasonable. So you move on. A few weeks later, it happens again. Then again. Individually, none of them seem serious. Together, they start forming a pattern. You almost investigate further. But business is booming. New investors keep arriving. New money keeps flowing in. Everything looks successful from the outside. Maybe too successful. One evening, your wife notices something. You've become distracted. You tell her it's nothing, just stress. But deep down, you know that's not true. Something feels wrong. The problem is, you don't know where to look, because the person you suspect the least is the person closest to you, and that's exactly what makes this story dangerous. Trust is blind. The collapse begins on an ordinary Tuesday, just another workday. Then your phone rings, and everything changes. At first, it sounds like a mistake, a misunderstanding. Several accounts don't match. Several documents are missing. You call your partner immediately. No answer. You call again and again. Still nothing. The silence feels wrong. You ask the staff where he is. Nobody knows. His office is empty. His computer is gone. That's when the fear arrives. Not panic, fear. You begin checking everything. Every contract. Every transfer. The deeper you look, the worse it gets. Fake contracts. Fake companies. Money moved for years. And you never saw it. The person you trusted most built the entire escape plan beside you. The news spreads faster than you expect. Much faster. Investors start calling, then hundreds more. Everyone wants the same thing, their money back. And for the first time in years, you don't have answers. The lawyers arrive next. Then the regulators. Every week reveals a new problem, a bigger problem. The company stops growing. Then it stops moving. Employees begin leaving, one by one. Some look angry, some look disappointed. The hardest conversations happen at home, not at the office. For months, she supported you, believed in you, but even strong people have limits. And so do relationships. One morning, the closet is half empty, and the house feels different. Now the silence is back, just like years ago, except this time, you know exactly what you've lost. Level 6. The fall. The lawsuits arrive first. Then more lawsuits. Every week brings another envelope, another demand. You stop checking the mail immediately, because you already know what's inside. The company accounts are frozen. Then more accounts are frozen. The office starts emptying, desk by desk. One day, you walk through the building and hear almost nothing. No meetings, no conversations, just silence and memories. The house goes next. You knew it would. You remember the day you bought it. It feels like another lifetime. The luxury car disappears, then the second one. At some point, you stop counting losses. There are too many. The strange thing is, the money hurts less now. What hurts is everything attached to it. The people, the memories, the version of yourself you thought would last forever. A few months later, you're living in a small apartment again. Not because you chose to, because you had to. The contrast is almost surreal. A few years ago, you owned more than you needed. Now you own only what fits inside this room. The strange thing is, you've been here before. Different apartment, different age, but the same uncertainty, the same empty future. Then something unexpected happens. The noise disappears. No investors, no lawyers, no meetings, no expectations. For the first time in years, you're completely alone with yourself. And that's when you realize something. The company wasn't your identity. The money wasn't your identity either. Because somehow, after losing almost everything, you thought this story was about money. It never was. For a long time, you just sit there, thinking, not about the money, not about the company. You think about the person you used to be, the impatient investor, the gambler, the man who believed money would solve everything. Back then, You thought wealth would bring certainty, that success would bring peace. But every level brought new problems, new fears, and every success came with a price. The higher you climbed, the more there was to lose. Then one betrayal took it all away. Almost everything, but not everything, because the most valuable thing survived. The knowledge, the experience, the ability to start again. And this time, you don't need luck. Years ago, you thought investing was about making money. Now you know better. Money was only the scoreboard, never the game itself. The real investment was happening somewhere else. Every mistake taught you something. Every loss forced you to grow. The market tested your patience, your discipline, your character. Sometimes you passed. Sometimes you failed. But every step changed you. That's why losing everything wasn't the end. Because you weren't starting from zero. You were starting from experience. And experience compounds. Just like money. That's the lesson most people miss. They think wealth changes a person, but usually it reveals them. The same is true for loss. When everything disappears, what remains is who you really are. And that's why the greatest investment was never your portfolio. It was always you. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more videos like this, support the channel with a like, a comment, and a subscription. It helps more than you think, and it shows me that this kind of storytelling is something you'd like to see again. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.